For Crema Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dhlamini, chairperson of the Civil Action Group. The organization Undoing Tax Abuse, Wayne Duvenage, joins me to discuss the latest developments in his organization. Why have you decided to expand your mandate into tax abuse?
Well, Outa was set up initially to challenge the e-toll decision for many reasons and valid reasons as far as we're concerned. We've been asked a number of times over the last couple of years to look at broadening our horizon and tackling other unjust and irrational tax decisions, tax policy decisions, tolling as a tax, and conduct around tax expenditure issues, being maladministration and corruption and so forth. And we've always kept that in the back of our minds that this is stuff that we would like to get into if and when our capacity enabled us to do so. And that's people having the skills, the talent, the teams, the funds to pay for that was at a level that we could broaden our horizon. And that's arrived towards the end of last year. We reached a critical mass where we felt we can start looking at other matters. Now, there's a lot of stuff out there that needs to be looked at and challenged, but we can't be everything to all people. So we have to be very careful in how we select and what we do. Yeah. I think to add to that, we do have a lot of experience now on what some of these issues are. We have got brand credibility. We've got a team that knows what it needs to do in this space. But yes, we have become specialists on SANROL and transport matters. And so we are building a model that will enable us to help other entities that are very good in their space of tackling carbon tax, nuclear, Eskom and so forth, and ensure that we help them deal with the things that they've got to deal with in their respective challenges. So we don't claim to know everything. We're not ever going to be able to do that. Yeah.
Do you consider it a victory that only 9% of the Gauteng road users pay for the e-tolls?
The fact that the user pays scheme has failed, because when 9% of the users are paying, any user pay scheme that is below 90% compliance is questionable. You need all users to pay. Unless you've exempt certain categories like taxis, and that's acceptable, that's fine. But all the users that need to pay should pay. The fact that 1 in 10 are paying says that the scheme has failed. Now, we predicted, not from looking into a glass ball and saying, our research showed that this scheme was always going to struggle to get the compliance levels to where it needed to be. Not only for the fact that people are going to reject it because it was irrational, but because it's just too costly, it's too hard to chase the money. It's the administrative burden and the cumbersomeness of the system was always going to lose a number of people. And so as you add in all these factors, the scheme was going to become more and more difficult to manage. And we know, our research shows that when you start to have to chase too much money, it just becomes too expensive and it fails. So is it a victory? Well, it's a victory to the people, and it's a victory, hopefully, to government for learning and to be able to take the learning from this failure to implement a system, even though they've got the laws all written, which they're still trying to write. The regulatory environment's still wrong. But if you keep trying to write the laws to fix a problem, then there's something else that has to be done. And in this case, you have to scrap the scheme because it's just too far gone now. So has Outa been part of this failure? I hope so, because we set out, first of all, to try and convince government to change its mind on a bad decision. It refused to listen. It continued to say, no, we want a toll, despite all the evidence we've given that it will fail. So we are very pleased that 90% of the people that are travelling on these roads have defied government and have been civilly disobedient. And it's not because of the rate, as Mr. Makura says, Premier Makura. It's because of the issue. It's a principal issue.
You recently presented to the Portfolio Committee on Transport, which afterwards released a controversial statement that said Outa was not opposed to urban e-tolling. What was your first reaction when you saw the statement?
Well, they had to withdraw that statement. If you saw, our first reaction was, a disbelief. I think, we thought, how incompetent can that government communications entity, the person who made that statement, be? When I sat there for over half an hour giving a 26-slide presentation on why we're opposed to e-tolls. Can they put out a statement that says we're not opposed to e-tolls? So we spelled it out very clearly that they are being either mischievous in the way they make these statements, being very selective, or something, or just pure incompetent. They apologized for making that statement because it was just the furthest thing from the truth.
Many Gauteng road users have received intimidating SMSs from SANRAL, and you said your members shouldn't be intimidated as they enjoy the protection under Outa's e-toll defense umbrella. Does this mean that people who are not your members may be blacklisted?
Well, we say generally to the public, do not be intimidated by these messages from SANRAL, these threats of collection, but our members feel safe in the knowledge and the fact that they will be defended by Outa if they're ever summoned for non-payment. And so we're saying our members need not worry, but we're actually saying to the rest of the public, you can stand your ground. And if you join Outa, we can help you stand your ground a lot easier.
Why are you saying NESA's decision to grant Eskom a 9.4% tariff increase is unacceptable?
Well, it's unacceptable in that we have a state-owned entity that's inefficient. We have a state-owned entity that's trying to claim back monies for failed revenues, yet it was part of the reason why those revenues were failed. We have a state-owned entity in Eskom that is running up massive costs unnecessarily. It has contracts that are out of line with the normal market forces on coal purchasing, and there's just far too many question marks. The whole maintenance program of our power stations has been neglected for many years. We have leadership that draw millions and millions in bonuses while the entity is failing to deliver. And so we've got so many question marks around Eskom's behavior that one has to ask, that 9% is on top of many other high and unacceptable percentages in the past. So if you look back over the last decade, we've paid over 600-700% increases in energy. We used to be the lowest producer of energy in the world, or one of the lowest. We're now one of the highest. So you cannot increase your tariffs continuously in this fashion and hope you'll get out of your problems. You have to deal with the issue. The issue is the inefficiencies of the system, of the whole of Eskom. It's badly run.
Why are you saying that budget speech by Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan was not enough to entice and stimulate investment into our economy?
Well, if you're going to create jobs, you're going to have to get people to keep their money here, those that are in here, those that have got money to invest, make them comfortable to invest, and you have to attract foreign investment into the country. To do that, you've got to make those investors feel safe. To make them feel safe, you've got to put in place legislation that will make sure that their money is not going to go anywhere, that it's very safe, and that they're going to get good returns, that the legislative and regulatory environments are conducive to and attractive to investing more. So we think that increasing the capital gains tax is a mistake. If they really wanted to, they could remove the capital gains tax and enable people to invest more. The more you invest in this country, the more jobs you're going to create. That's what we need, job creation. So I never saw anything really in that budget speech that made external investors saying, this is fantastic. Now we know it's beyond just a few regulations and legislation that makes it exciting, because I think what we've got to do in Africa, and certainly here in South Africa, is to convince the rest of the world that the laws of today are going to be strong for tomorrow as well. And that these are long-term policy approaches towards investors are going to be conducive to and made exciting for people to come and invest here. I don't think we're in that space anymore. In fact, if we were, we wouldn't have the capital flight from this country that we're having right now. So yes, in a nutshell, we haven't done enough. And then we haven't done enough in other areas as well, such as tackling corruption. And that's a big scourge. That's a massive problem. And government never, once in that budget speech, and not anywhere have we seen a serious approach by government to say we need to get on top of this problem. They talk a lot about it. They talk a lot, but they don't do. And if you're going to bring investment into Africa, you need to make sure that you have an environment that is not costly as a result of corruption.
Outa says government should add 9 cents on the fuel levy to cover e-tolls. It sounds easy and cheaper. Why do you think government is refusing to implement this option?
Well, they have done it. But they just haven't said, well, this is for the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project. So over the last a few years or 8 years since the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project started, they've raised the fuel levy by more than double, quite frankly. So the money's there. Over R1, 20, 30 cents has gone into the fuel levy. That's outside of the road accident fund. 9 cents is what we said right in the beginning. We said to government, don't go down the road of e-tolling for various reasons. It's not going to work, it's going to fail. We said it would fail for a number of reasons, and that's exactly what's happened. But what we did say is that if you had a ring fence the 9 cents in the fuel levy for the Gauteng Freeway project, guess what? You would have already paid that project today. Finished. The whole capital expenditure would have gone. And here we are, 8 years later, government still fighting with its citizens on a decision it made, and they still haven't collected the money. They're not even paying for the bonds. They are driving a wedge between themselves and society, and one has to look at this. When you look at the behavior of government and you see how easy it was to use the existing system to fund the roads, you've got to ask yourself, what is it that they are not seeing, or what is it that they don't want us to see in order for them to hang on to this ill-fated, ill-conceived, failed scheme. It's failed, completely failed. If you want to raise money to pay back bonds, you need to do it properly and efficiently. This has been a disaster for government.
Gauteng Premier David Makhura said the lack of e-toll payment was due to the issue of affordability as opposed to a mass civil disobedience campaign. Why is Outa against his statement?
Okay, so if he says it's affordability, well then why wasn't there an uptake, a massive uptake, when the cap reduced from 450 down to 225? Because that made it a hell of a lot more affordable. Why wasn't there an uptake or an acceptance of the scheme when it was reduced from 40 cents to 30 cents just before it launched? You see, it's not about the fee, because if that was the case, you would have seen these massive uptakes each time. And it didn't happen. In fact, the government has offered a new dispensation of 60% discount on the past and invited people to come on board into a cheaper scheme. Hasn't happened. So it's not about that. Then we did our own research and we said to the public, if e-tolls was reduced to 1 cent, not 30 or 35 cents, 1 cent, would you pay? And 90% plus said no. We're not paying, not because of the rate. It's because of the principle of e-tolling. It's an inefficient, ill-conceived, irrational tax that's coming. So we say to the Premier Makhura, you know, this is not us thumb-sucking. We've done our research. If he's done his research, we'd love to see it. He might have asked a few people and they might have said, no, it's affordability. We're saying, and our research shows otherwise. It's not about the rate. It's about the principle of the issue.
What is Outa doing this year to intensify its campaign on the e-tolls as well as the tax abuse?
Well, first of all, we are fending off these abusive, threatening and harassing SMSs that SANRAL and ETC and now their collection companies, ITC, business administrators in Cape Town are sending out, you know, to people, you must pay this, otherwise we're going to start taking corrective action against you in litigation and listing your vehicle and this. And we basically told the public, ignore those messages. They are threats, they are intimidation, and we will fight for the rights of our members. So that's what we do. We're empowering people with knowledge, with strength, that they can be courageous to make a decision. And then second to that, we have got a legal team lined up and waiting for the first case where legal action is taken against one of our members, and we will go and defend them. So that's on that front. On the other fronts, we on the e-toll, on the Eskom tariffs, we opened up a portal for the public to give their input, so we can pass it on to NERSA to show how frustrated and how angry the people are and what their views were around the tariff hikes. We've made a submission on the carbon tax. We are investigating whistleblower input on other areas of maladministration and potential corruption in other parts of state-owned entities, and there are quite a few of those cases we're looking into. So this is business as usual. We're expanding our team to make sure that we have the capacity to start dealing with all these other matters. The nuclear energy issue, some organizations are taking government to court on that for the right reasons. We need to support them. We need to empower the public with the knowledge of what the issues are on nuclear. And I can tell you the list is long. We've got a big project list and project teams that are being built to do the research, do the investigations, and the legal team to engage with the powers that be and to litigate if need be.
That was Outa chairperson Wayne Duvenage speaking to Crima Media's Polity about the latest developments in his organization.